Hey Tria.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Working.
Yep, that's
How
it.
you feeling? You got sick or your mom
I
got
yeah, both of us got sick. It was
doing?
somewhat better, just still feeling pretty off, but yeah, thanks for asking. Hi Delinia.
How you doing? How's mom?
Okay.
Stable.
So,
Yeah, stable, thank goodness. It was a weird run. Thanks for asking.
Let us know if you need anything.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, just needed healthcare to be more safe and efficient.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a tall ask.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it was
So,
great.
over in public health today,
Mm,
we are all discussing about how horrible our healthcare system was.
God.
So, even those of us who work in it are going like, this is terrible.
Yeah, I hate to yeah, I hate to complain, but yeah, it was just
No,
phenomenal. It was like
I'm pretty
wow.
sure it's the only way it's going to change is if everybody complains.
Yeah, it was so abysmal. It's kind of like wow, the pandemic finally hit my family, and they couldn't like it was like a you couldn't make stuff up.
Yeah.
They had me rush my mom back down for IV hydration and wanted to put her outside in a shed.
Oh, crap.
Shed
What?
outside the medical clinic on the day when our air was like 398 or
Oh,
something,
holy crap.
uninsulated, and she couldn't use the bathroom. And so we were in the car and it was like I was just blown away. It's like
I'm so sorry.
it's
Andrew,
okay.
we have the greatest healthcare system in the world.
Oh, exactly. Right. What am I saying? Oh, yeah.
The most expensive, maybe.
Yeah, the most crazy. So anyway, thank you all. I'm better. Just still feel like weird, not myself.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better because you're sorely needed and loved and so forth. So
thank you.
all right, guys. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna get moving on things. We got a bunch of stuff to do. And so Delinia, I got your list. Discuss the budget, possibly a motion if ready. Drea, discuss how to proceed with project in QuickBooks. Doriandra, the new funds for staffing, $25,000. And I got the thing you said, Doriandra, to speak on matters that need decision-making for a program launch. And if we have time, I would like to discuss the mental health hints that came from Sean over at Laurel Hill, but obviously that's not the highest priority, which is kind of sad, really, that mental health shouldn't be the highest priority. But we've got so much other stuff to do. I'm just going to have to push it down there. So does anybody else have anything else they want to put on the agenda? Seeing none, good. I'm going to move right on.
I see one.
Yeah.
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 I have a fundraising idea, Anon.
Okay, go ahead. I'll put that. I will put that after the other stuff, but before my stuff. Okay, hold on, Thea. Fundraising. Gotcha. Okay, anybody else? No, okay, very good. I'm actually going to start with Doriandra's suggestion that we talk about things having to do with other things that need to make a decision, because I think that's going to flow into the budget discussion. So Doriandra, if you want to start with that. And I'm going to give each of these things about 10 minutes because that's really about all we've got.
Okay. Okay, well, I think actually the largest decision making process I think we need to do is really the budget.
Right.
Secondary, and it's probably not a placement for right now because it's a vast subject, is what our criteria means for eligibility would look like. And I preface that point with saying that I've been just actively reaching out to other CBOs around us and gathering some of those questions from our potential partners, and also the state, like what they perceive as criteria eligibility. But I think it's really important that WCC focuses on where you all feel those.
Yeah.
So you know, how it's a huge topic and one that we have time to get to as I develop the program and I'm moving into that direction, but it's a big question. So
Sure, you bet. So budget and criteria, right? Criteria, eligibility criteria, right? Other decisions that we think, that you think need to get made besides those two?
right now, those are both pretty imminent and
Okay, very
anything
good.
else can wait. Yeah.
Wow, that was a quick discussion. Okay, so, Delinia, did you want to move on the budget of the discussion first, or did you want to discuss the new funds for staffing first? You got a preference?
I don't have a preference. Yeah.
Okay, well then, let's just discuss the budget then, to start with, if that's okay with you, Doriandra. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Do you got anything you want to show us?
Yeah. Can I share? I'll share the screen with you.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hey, Jen, can you mute yourself? We're getting feedback. There we go. Thank you.
She has
Fun.
two screens open. I'm not sure what that's about, but oh, okay. All right, perfect. So yeah, let me share this screen for you guys. And let's see here. Oh, sorry, where is it? Okay, here we go. Sorry, folks, what is happening? Okay, I'm taking you on a dizzying ride through the desktops. Okay, all right. Is that okay now?
Yeah, that looks great.
Okay, super. So total draft, I just based on research of people I've been talking to the last 2 weeks, in our CBO base and whatnot, it seems to be a rather prudent start. So, you know, we've got about 1750 in outreach and engagement. And some of that may come down, it may come up. I've left us 500 for miscellaneous, but essentially this covers a part-time social media person through June, if we can do it, very limited hours. I estimate they would only need 2 to 3 hours a week, maybe just a volunteer that takes that, I'm not sure. We may want to have some real simple services done with graphic arts. I know folks over at Instaprint can do very affordable graphics, which would be really nice rather than the expensive stuff that we've done in the past with, you know, full design. Resource clinic signage. This is for the Eugene mission. When we have the clinics where folks can come and work on their ID recovery for basic services or document recovery. And then also to get into our program. The Instaprint flyers, posters, we may want to spend money on that as we did with our other clinics. So then, and then moving into the real bulk of the grant here, I'm putting out there 75,000 for the rental deposits. It seems prudent. 5,000 for pet deposits. These are the deposits that allow people to have their support animals with them, like this guy right here. So
There you go.
we may want to increase that. And I just thought we'd talk with Pro Bono. Those are our folks in our neighborhood that do the free veterinarian services and just kind of like see what they think, if it should be higher or not. Some of us can't live without pets. And so the landlord incentives, I wanted to keep those lower because that almost feels like a strange category, but I thought 50 may work there. Moving expense payments, this is excellent for if we need to move folks from A to B.
Right.
And instead of us renting vans and trying to do it ourselves because of liabilities, I thought that we would just literally go with established Whitaker moving companies so that it's not us lifting. And storage unit rentals, we have that for folks in transition or trying to get from A to B. Usually those are like first month free, so 10,000 almost seems too much, but basic home furnishings to get people established in new rentals, I left that really low because of our partnership with Eugene Mission. They have a warehouse like the size of a Target full of furniture and kitchen
my.
supplies. Yeah, and they've been really gracious with us in the past with outfitting our clinic with toys for Christmas and whatnot for kids. And so I've been in that warehouse and it's like Willy Wonka's factory for home. So yeah, everything, I think that, they'll be really gracious with us as we get folks situated. And then the other one I really wanted to put high and may change if everyone thinks, but 20,000 for house cleaning services. I have a feeling that Laurel Hill will be really helpful in talking through this one with me too, because I feel like many people in our environment are struggling with mental health, and
Right.
there may be hoarder situations or
Yeah.
health situations within the housing that we could help alleviate so that landlords don't evict. And so I wanted that number to be kind of high. Essentially, that leaves us pulling 185,000 out of the real bulk of the grant. Moving into staff for Drea and I for the 10 months coming up, I've got us calculated here at 48,000, 5,000 or $580. And with this new public health equity grant that I just got pulled in, I just figured we could split that salary in half, and we'll use the public health equity grant to pay for 24-ish thousand. And then we'll have a remaining 24,000 from our ORAP grant. Moving into admin and equipment, this could be QuickBooks, it could be miscellaneous, who knows what we'll need as we develop this program further. So all in all, then that leaves us with total expenditures of $216,040 from our original housing grant. That leaves us with almost 20,000 to be flexible and leeway, and we can add or change those parameters. And then our total expenditures from the public health equity then would be 24,290,000. I'm sorry. You see what I'm saying? Okay.
Yep.
Remaining funds, $710. Yes, Andrew.
Yeah, so more, I guess, editorial. One thing we were not good at in the last set of grants was making sure that we cover our indirects.
Yes.
And stuff like QuickBooks, we're listing it in our budget, but the state pushed back on that. That's going to get pushed into indirects. And so I just want to make sure not the budget that's going to the state. I mean, eventually they'll see it, but we should be budgeting for the indirects up front. And if we're not going to do the full amount, I just want to be really clear about that, because of one thing that we didn't do last time that we're working to clean up is figuring out, like, basically the short version is like, how much did we spend of the other grants, and can we actually take what we thought we were going to do in indirects out? Probably. Ian was trying to budget for that, but we're still cleaning everything up. I just want to do that up front. So if we have 235 in the bank, if we're going to take 10%, then I want Drea to take that money, like mark it down in the books that we took our indirect out, put that in the general fund. It's cleanly out, and now we're more just editorial there. I would just recommend we reflect that in the budget up front before we pass it.
Why don't we? So, yeah, thank you.
And sorry, just one last thing.
Yep.
I'm not suggesting we take. I'm assuming that this is also a 10% indirect rate because it's through the same grant program. We should verify that. I'm not suggesting we should take 10%. I'm just saying we should figure out what we're going to do up front and then allocate the rest of the money so we don't accidentally not get our indirects. I just want it to be really clean.
Definitely.
And everybody agree up front.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, do you want to just change this one category, admin equipment, to indirect and change that number accordingly?
No, because equipment, so admin, I think most things that we would call admin probably fall under indirects. Equipment does not. And so that is something we can report and directly charge. So they're kind of different.
Good point.
I would just suggest having like an equipment category, and then let's call it like an indirect category, because we know that we're going to have to pay for some things as a result of this project. But those indirects also can be like, they're related to the grant, but we, all we need to do is report like we had a 10% indirect rate or an 8% indirect rate if we don't want to take 10%. Because it's more important to give that money to our neighbors, or not commenting on what's appropriate, just want to do it up front.
I think that's great. Yeah, I will. And so you're saying that that if we're assuming 10% on this grant, which would match with the other OHA ones, that indirect would be 10% of 235,000, right?
Verify with them though that 10% is what we can take from this one.
I will.
Which yeah.
But that's,
Yeah. And I mean, we don't have 10% left, which is totally okay, right? Like this
Mhm.
isn't a money making scheme. We're trying to
Right.
pay our neighbors rent, which
Right.
is like a good thing. But like for instance, like you have 18, almost you have a little about $19,000 left over, and so
Mhm.
that'd put us at like a, you know, probably like a 7.5% direct rate or something like that, which is extremely reasonable.
Right.
And like that money will go to good purposes in the future if we just kind of put that into our general fund,
Okay.
right? Like we got to pay our lawyers and stuff, right? Like we're talking about a bunch of like that's not budgeted in here yet, and that's something I know that we
Yeah.
don't do a good job budgeting for, is like how much we pay our attorneys to review contracts and to do all of the other stuff. And that's why, like, I guess as the treasurer, my recommendation would be to like take that $19,000 and put it into indirects so that we definitely have money for those unexpected things like our lawyer fees that come up.
Okay.
They're irregular, but very regular in how much they come up.
Yeah, and that way, that's a really good point. At that point, I would very much like to hand this draft back to you and Delinia and Drea, because I don't know those expenses. And so like, if we need to toggle this to like, or if you just want to say, let's set aside 20,000 for that, or, there's a lot that I'm missing. This is just a rough draft.
I'll just say I appreciate what you've done. I don't have any reason to believe that I could super accurately budget for how much we'll need to pay our attorneys to review contracts. Probably
Okay.
not a ton, but the whole
Yeah.
point of the indirects is just that lots of little things like that come up in the course of us doing business, and that's intended to cover those things. And to that extent, we should, I think done a mediocre job of making sure that we're covering those things out of the grant funds.
Mhm.
And I just want to start a precedent here of, so the maximum extent possible, but I do think that it's very important that we spend as much as possible paying for our neighbors to get their houses clean, get their rent paid, get the pet deposits, right? We're not, I don't want to come across as saying like we should make it money on this. We're not going to do that. I just want to make sure we're protected as a nonprofit so that we can do this again in the future.
Okay.
I have a question. Do we know how flexible the folks are over at OHA who are handling this money? And what I mean by that is if we come up with a budget and with the best intentions and going about it as accurately as we can, but we end up having to move some things around for whatever the reason, are they going to be okay with that? Or is it got to be
Nope.
let me finish my sentence, please.
Sorry.
Does it have to be everything in every column has to be exactly that amount all the time?
No. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Anand. I just had the answer. So I apologize. I do that too much. No. So this budget, as far as I'm concerned, is internal, and we do have to give them a budget, but it's not reported like this in this kind of detail.
Okay.
There are broad categories, like we wouldn't talk about, I don't think, program manager and bookkeeper. We would talk about contractual services versus equipment expenses. So this is really an internal budget document, and so we can do whatever we want here. We have to do grant reporting later, which is what I'm more worried about.
Right.
Where we report in those broad categories, and we just need to make sure however we're spending the money matches categories that are eligible for expenses. And we can kind of, my understanding, Dorian, tell me if you're wrong, but when we talked to them before, they were like, just give us your best. We know it's a year away. Just give us your best guess.
Yeah.
And they were mostly focused actually on us telling them that we're going to spend all of the money, because that feeds into how they are budgeting at the state level.
Correct. And my point tonight was just that we would, all of us, get on the same page with deciding how we would then present to them how we're going to spend it. And so, yeah, exactly. Well said. This is an internal kind of beginning draft.
Very good. Thank you.
I have a question for Drea. Drea, how much does the software for QuickBooks cost for the year?
It changes. We have a discounted rate right now. And then I have to look and see when that goes up. And then if we're adding payroll, or I don't know if Dorian still wants to do a contract worker, or if we're going to add payroll, and any changes like that we make changes the cost. So it's not, I can look right now what we're paying.
I'd love to be an employee, but that's a whole nother thing.
That is our aim at some point. I'm not sure when,
Yeah.
but you know, that would be best for everybody involved.
Yeah.
After all, you're part of the community. I mean, our job is to try to support the community. So, right, that obviously that's what we want to do.
Yeah, it would be, at the rate, I don't know what it is about Lane County, but it's it was like 33% taxation on
30, yeah.
whatever I received from you guys. That's what I'm taxed on. So
Oh, geez.
Yeah, we have to take
brutal.
33% and put it aside, and as independent contractors, we get hammered.
yeah,
Oh,
just
yeah.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
brutal. It's
It's a lot.
almost like I could just I should be over at Costco like selling or handing out granola bars. It's so sad. I mean, but this, you know what I mean? Like it's just crazy how you do really good work in life, but then the government's like, oh, give me the money back.
So I think this is a good time to at least bring it up, though we may not have time for that discussion right now.
Yeah.
But it is something I think we do need to discuss and see what would the process be to go from where we are to where we want to get, right? What's it going to take to get there?
Yeah.
And like I said, that's not part of the agenda right now, and we don't really have time for it at the moment, but it's a very important issue. And I want to make sure that we do in fact address it as soon as possible. So if anybody wants to take the forefront on that and work on how we can get from here to there, I think that would be great for another meeting or something. Does that seem reasonable?
Mhm.
Yep.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Payroll. Right now we're paying anywhere from 110 to 120 a month for QuickBooks Online services. And then with payroll, you know, it increases a little bit when you add payroll onto QuickBooks, and also like you do have, it costs a little extra money because we have to match. And when we have employees in Oregon, you have to have a 401 for your employee, which doesn't mean we have to match it, but we do have to do that. And it costs a little bit extra for somebody to run payroll. So if I was going to do payroll, it'd be a little bit extra than what I'm making right now, because right now I'm just doing general bookkeeping and grant stuff. So just throwing that out there.
Cool.
No, Jen, QuickBooks
yes,
does not give
quick-
discount.
No, QuickBooks doesn't give a discount, but we could, we should have went through, you know, we could have went through TechSoup. TechSoup does give QuickBooks, but generally it's desktop version, and desktop version is just not always the greatest. And we'd have to start a whole new QuickBooks and then put everything over into their Jen if we got it through TechSoup.
So, we're discussing the budget. Does anybody have anything else that we need to add to this? What do we need to do to get to a place where we can actually make a motion to adopt a budget? What's the process to do that?
I say use all the money.
I'm pretty sure that is the goal, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And anybody else have anything to add to that?
If we need, I don't know. I mean, that's it, right? That's the budget that we're going to be presenting to them. Is that correct?
No,
That's not what I just heard. What I just heard is this is an internal document, and
Okay.
that the budget that we're going to present will flow from this, but is not actually this.
right.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Andrew's right. We have to kind of tighten up our wording on it and whatnot, but this is, yeah, we just need to decide how much money goes into each category of
Right.
spending, and then
So-
and also, like, this is a caveat in saying that you know, I mean, I've been in a flurry of emails with partners and
Sure.
potential folks around the city, and all this, you know, I may come back to you guys in 2 months and say, hey, actually, I think we should move more money over here and change it around. So
Right.
I think for us, this is a moving goalpost based on partnership and resource.
So my understanding is this is a guesstimate, and that's fine. And we need to start with something. And this is as good as something to start with as anything else. Would it be helpful if we were to vote that we're going to support this particular budget for now, with the idea that the budget we're going to give to OHA is going to be based on this? Is that going to be helpful?
Yeah, I think Stephen's had a question there.
Stephen. Oh, yes, there you are. Hi, Stephen. I can't hear you. I love to see your hand, though. Your hand is really marvelous looking, but I would love to hear you too.
Jennifer had her hand up a while ago before me. I don't know whether her question has been answered, but her hand was waving before I put my hand up.
I think she had something in chat that I think Delinia answered, but I could be mistaken. Was there anything else?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So I guess
Okay.
you're up, Stephen.
Yeah, I had a comment and a question. The comment was the contrast between the discussion of this funding and the budgeting contrasts so dramatically with how things were when money started flowing in at the beginning of the pandemic work. So it's a lot more sophisticated now. So congratulations on how the organization has matured in processes. The question is, there's two sources of funding here, the Public Health Equity and ORAP. Which agencies are the source of those funds?
Sure, great question. Both are OHA. And the second new one, the Public Health Equity, is an interesting kind of turnaround. Ian and I wrote a grant together for public health modernization and equity back at the end of 2021, I guess. And based on planting trees in the Whitaker and all this disaster resilience and disease efforts mitigation. And we were not awarded the grant as an organization because there were so many other huge players jostling for it. But they circled back about a month ago to Delaney and I and said, we remember you, and the council is already funded through the other existing CBO grant, and we want to give you $25,000. So I was able to braid, even though this public health modernization and public health equity is very different from the CBO grant that we're working on to do the housing. We were able to braid the two together by using Anand's very good theory that housing is healthcare, and by using this funds into our existing program that we're developing, that we would be, one, addressing environmental changes due to climate change by allowing people to prepare for disasters and address communicable diseases, mental health. So the whole thing was able to kind of overlap together. So now we have two grants that we're working from.
And do we deal directly with CBO, or does that come in directly through OHA?
We are a CBO, community-based organization, and all of these two grants and all of the work will be going straight through OHA.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. So does somebody want to make a motion supporting this budget?
I would like
Linnea,
motion to support the budget.
anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Thea, very good. Thank you, Thea. All right. Any discussion further before we actually take a vote? Seeing none, I'm going to put it to the.
Anon,
There's somebody else. Yeah, Thea. Yeah.
should we add you did add the indirect in there, correct? On that line, I thought I saw you type it in.
She did. She did.
Okay. And I did look at it. 8% is, I gotta go back to my calculator. I lost my calculator.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. And sorry, my
okay.
camera's off, guys, because my video doesn't.
That's okay. We
I
can hear
get
you.
lag time when my camera's on.
Sure.
8.5 is 19,975, and so that's close to what we have extra.
What did
Little
you,
short.
Thea, how did you find the 8.5 number?
I just took it off your 235,000 original.
but how did you get the 8%? I think we need to verify that percentage.
Oh, no, I didn't get it. I was just, as you guys
Oh.
were talking numbers, I was popping them in to see if we were gonna be over or under on what was left in our funds.
Gotcha. So my action item for tomorrow then is to reach out to Dulce, who's back on the
Right.
job now after being away all summer, and
Right.
verify our percentage of indirect rate. At that point, I will add it to this and rearrange the funding to allocate for this line here. And then that will essentially move our 18,000 into this percentage based on what they tell me. From there, then I'll send everybody a copy of this with the revision on it.
Can I ask, do we have the grant agreement? Can we just look at that? My experience, it is always good to check, but my experience with regulatory authorities is you should know you should know the answer to your question before you ask it.
It's a very good
Um,
point. I'm gonna dive in and look for that right now.
I like that, Andrew. That's cool. Know the answer before you ask it. That's great.
Good point.
Yeah, and then get it in writing, and
Yeah.
then that way you know you're good.
Okay.
I've learned
I
that
believe,
lesson
I
before.
believe that one was 10% though.
The previous funding, and I think they said this is like reported the same way because it's like the same funding. It was 10% in the previous grants, not the FEMA, but the OHA CBO stuff.
Ah,
And
yeah.
so my assumption is it's the same, but we should check our grant agreement.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's 10. I'm going into it right now. Let's see.
And of course, taking less is fine. You know, eight
That's
and a half percent is pretty healthy.
Stop saying that, Andrew. Just kidding.
Well, we might be able to say something like no more than, you know, so that, you know, there's leeway in there. If we don't need to take the whole 10%, we can find some other way to use that funding to help support the community in some other way. But if they say we can, then I think we should at least write that in there. So in case it's necessary, then we can do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Chance,
It's been moved, it's been seconded. We've had discussion. Anything else before we move on to the vote? No. Okay, all in favor, raise up a hand. Da, 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 da. I can't actually see everybody. Could somebody who does count? Everybody I see has a hand up. So I'm going to assume that's okay. Are we good? Looks like unanimous to me. All right. Yay. We had a vote. Hallelujah. Okay. Moving on. Let's see. Give me just a second here.
Can I ask a real quick question, please?
You certainly may. Absolutely.
I
Anyway,
was
Bob.
wondering, thank you, Doriander, if we could use up to, if that would be possible, as opposed to more than, not more than. I don't know if that makes a difference, you know, like a range from 8% up to X percent. I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
Yeah, Andrew, what do you? could
So
you-
if I were a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm not, but I did used to work at an attorney's office for several years.
There
If
you
I
go.
were a lawyer, the numbers that you have on that sheet, basically, I don't know what the exact percentage was, but like I would argue that, you know, the category, we just approved the categories that you had laid out with those dollar amounts. Everything is a not to exceed. So for instance, if we don't end up paying pet deposits, right, we approved that money. It's not really approved for anything else. And so the like unallocated money, you know, like that's currently unallocated. We don't have, no one's been given authority to spend that. And so it's going to sit there unallocated, and we'll take up to that amount in indirects. We can do that at any time. We just approved taking out up to 8.5% or whatever it is in indirects. And so maybe we want to do that off the top, but I just mean that everything's a not to exceed, and we have the ability to go back and pass a new budget. We could do that right now if we wanted to, right? That old budget,
Sure.
it's only good until we pass a new budget. And so I think we're good, Jen. If that make, like, I don't want to sweep your concern away, but just that we can make changes later. We're the only people with the authority that can do that. And everything is a not to exceed or an up to or a don't spend more than, or however you want to phrase it.
I appreciate your explanation, I really do.
Very
Thanks.
good.
Oh,
Yes, Doriandra.
Okay, I just found it here. So
Yay.
apparently the WCC in 2021 used an indirect charge percentage of 1.093%. No, I'm sorry, 1.0931%. We were guided through Leslie Bennett, the budget officer at OHA, with a reminder that it's one of three options: a federally negotiated indirect rate, which we do not have, our internally calculated rate that we decide on, or a 10% de minimis rate. So I think, Andrew, that's where we're getting the 10%.
And
And
I think that we want to go with the 10% rate.
I do too, because I have no idea where the 1.0931%, why that was used in 2021. That may be.
I think that's because Ian in previous reporting had not been fully charging the indirect rate that we are eligible to charge, which
Agree.
is problematic in the
Yeah.
long run.
Okay.
Right. That makes
I
sense.
agree. Okay, so then, and this is where Drea's math brain would be helpful, because but we should, because, okay, this is just stupid math. This is 10% of 235. And let me see, let me change this here. I'll work on this real quick to get the numbers sorted. And
23.5.
yep, easy peasy, right?
Yep.
Okay. So now I'll fix this while we continue chatting and then send it to y'all.
That's great. Okay. Speaking of Drea, one of the things that Delaney wanted to have was have Drea discuss how to proceed with project in QuickBooks. Drea, do you have anything else you want to talk about with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've all been really honing in on being more organized in communication between all of us, which has been great. You know, for me, the importance is just getting the information. You know, we have our internal, you have your internal, usually, you know, the executive director will have their internal report like we just voted on. And then with that, add some tabs onto that we can all look at and then really be specific about what we're spending the money on and where it went and what grant it goes to. And then, you know, the way that I generally set things up and what we've been doing is we have our restricted bank account. We have our bank account that we're getting interest off that. And then we move things when Delaney Doriandra says this amount of money for, you know, for payroll, I move it over. So it needs to be very specific so that we can track every movement, every transfer. Doriandra, the check register, that's been great, you know, just kind of letting me know so that it's not, you know, a year down the line where we're trying to keep everything organized. I can also put that your budget into QuickBooks, and I can pull reports up. It says what the budget is and where we're at in spending until it's spent down, you know, putting the invoices in, know exactly how much is there so that I can help you, like, you know, so that we can pull at month end, we can pull our report and be like, hey, you know, it looks like we spent a little bit more money, or we're spending more money here, which would then help you ask the board, like, I think we need to change our budget a little bit and get, you know, just so that we can do a monthly report and keep ourselves on task. So,
Okay.
yeah, so, you know, we can work on a template that will work out so that we can, you know, really know what's going on, and sending me, as you've been doing really good, making sure I get all of the bills so I can put them in and I can get things paid on time, and, you know, like, but on a weekly basis would be really good so that I can keep things updated.
I think we should move to that rather than our monthly system that we've been using, because I anticipate things start kind of moving quickly if we,
Yep.
But also another side thing that may help us with accounting is simply that with partnership, like with Whitebird's Nest program, we may just be able to facilitate from them and be giving, like, you know, a check to Whitebird that's then going to pay for because I just don't know how we're going to fit in, how our intersections will cross yet, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I agree. Let's start working on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, week to week is best, just so we can keep updated. And I can't really give you anybody an actual you know, profit and loss or statement if we don't have all the bills in there and expectations. If you know we're going to be spending so much money on certain things, we need to get it in the system so we know what our actual finances are. You know,
Very cool.
looking at a bank account, the bank account is really irrelevant to what we have because stuff is already accounted for. So just general, really getting into those general accounting practices as a business in which we are, I think is really good. And I think we're doing a really good job, and just like tightening it up and doing it more often, I think it's just what we need to do.
I think so too. Like you and I could meet maybe twice a month and just get our heads in the right place. And then one question I had for you, just a quick side note, we have the full funding from it's in the bank, the 235,000, correct? So if I get this program moving and like we have it, we're not waiting for implementations of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to look.
Okay, and while you do that, the Delaney and I will finish the grant agreements this week for the 25,000, and then we should see that hit the bank. They said late December, potentially early January. So we don't have that yet, but knowing that we have the other stuff, if we get the program moving quickly, then that's helpful to know.
Well, we have 91,000 in our savings, which is in our restricted, and then we have another 20 in our general fund.
Okay, so
that's where we're at right now.
We're fine. Okay, great. I just didn't know if we needed to pause or.
No, there's no pausing. I mean, but also just like making sure, something that was really frustrating for me is like not knowing where stuff was supposed to be, like how we need to like make sure that what needs to be restricted isn't restricted. What number is that we need to start off with restricted. You know, we have a savings account. So when we get the funds, we need to pull out that 10% and put it in our money market account, which is our savings account. So we could be making money off of it. And then general funds should just have our monthly budget amount in it. We shouldn't be, because the general funds are not going to make any money out of it. That 20K or whatever our 10% is should be in savings so that we could be making money off of the money that we have. And then we, you know, when we need to pay bills, I need to know, hey, this month, this is how much we anticipate needing to move over from restricted, move over from general, move over from wherever, and all the different kind. Hopefully we can get, if we have multiple grants going on, you know, having a spreadsheet like the one that you did with the tabs on it, with this is this funding, this is this funding, you know, so just kind of getting that flow.
Good. All right. Yeah, I feel like we're in a good place, like moving forward. Now that we've all worked on the past, now we can try to just like keep it streamlined forward. So it shouldn't be this hard moving forward.
Very
good. I don't think it will be.
So moving on to the next thing, Delaney wanted Doriandra to mention about the new funds for the staffing for $25,000. Do we need a further explanation for that?
I don't think so. I think
it sounded like we were kind of had that discussion already, but I just wanted to make sure that we had it to the extent that you were content with that. Okay, good. All right. So we've worked through a bunch of things. Thea, fundraising.
Okay, let's see if I don't lose myself. I saw that Saoirse had done for Community Market, Pints for a Cause over at Falling Sky. And I thought, why can't Whitaker Community Council do Pints for a Cause and rotate and Pot for a Cause and rotate through our different breweries like Oakshire, Ninkasi, Hop Valley, and then maybe some of our pot stores. Delaney can tell you how her store does fundraising. And we either do it to the general fund, do it for the general fund, but 50% of it goes to the housing grant for this time around.
Nice.
And then so I wanted to bring it up at the general meeting tonight.
Sure.
And we don't have to do pot, but you know, they do fundraisers for kids and cancer and
and
then Emily Proudfoot had also thought it's time for the Whitaker, and Emily's with, she's the architect for the City for Parks. She says it's time for the breweries to start supporting Whitaker Community Council with a general donation every year and maybe help them pay for, she wanted them to help pay for a bathroom for Scoburg Gardens. And I thought, now the city needs to pay for the bathroom for Scoper Gardens.
Right.
But to get them to start helping because their business affects our neighborhood.
Yes.
We support them.
Yes.
So I just didn't know what you guys thought about that as a part of tying it in with the housing grant to bring more money into this.
Delinia.
As far as pot, we cannot do pot per the OLCC. Marijuana or cannabis items can only be given to medical patients. And it's kind of strict to that. But I could definitely check with Travis because he has very innovative ways of doing fundraisers for different causes. Last year, I believe for the UG mission, he donated about $1,500. He raised $1,500. So I can ask him how about doing it. So this way, when we go to, cannabis or dispensaries, we can actually give them a plan. So I'll check into that, Thea, for you.
Nice. Good question. Andrew's asking who has connections with the breweries.
I do.
I do.
He does.
I do. I have connections with all three that are in our neighborhood. So Andrew, when the businesses around our neighborhood have issues with some of the unhoused or the people that are preying on the unhoused, a lot of the businesses reach out to me and then I reach out to who can get them help. Because a lot of them are afraid of the repercussions they'll get.
Right.
So yeah, I do have contacts there.
I bet they're very appreciative.
It's been a rough couple of weeks in the wet.
Oh, man. I see some people are back on the little triangle next to the red barn. So that's kind of interesting.
They're gone again today.
Oh, they are. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I do have a little bit of news. So
Oh, good.
I contacted public, what was it? Both the Human Services for Lane County and Lane County Mental Health and kind of shamed them in an email about having,
Good.
well, they're responsible for the welfare of the people. So they are going to be sending somebody to Chaplain Wayne for Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays to a team there to help to see if they can, help them there. So they'll be sending people from, Human Services.
That's great. Fantastic. Thank you. Well done.
Delinia, I read that as they're going to do it one time. When I read their response.
That's okay, Thea.
Once
They
is
can
good
go
enough.
they'll go one time, but then we're going to keep on going. I'm telling them.
We are very persistent.
We are very persistent.
Yay. Thank goodness. And yet they persisted. Well done.
Thank you.
All righty. We have gone through our list of things. I do have one last thing, and I'll try to keep it really, really short. So you may remember last month at the general membership meeting, I think it was general membership meeting, we had some mental health experts come, and I had asked them also what things we could do and people in general could do to help with their own mental health and the mental health of those around them. And Sean from Laurel Hill, the executive director there, was kind enough to send us a list. And I think everybody has had the opportunity to see it. I sent it out, Delinia sent it out. And so I'm wondering how people are feeling about that. And I'm wondering if there might be some way to get that out into the public eye as a kind of a self-help or community help thing that people might be able to do. And I'm wondering if anybody has some interest in that or some thoughts about that. And yes, I know we don't have a lot of time left, so we can't really discuss it a lot, but it's something which everybody's been having issues with ever since COVID, before COVID, let's face it. our culture is not very good at dealing with mental health issues. So if there's anything that we can do to help with that, I feel a little obligated to do so. And I'm open to any suggestions. I mean, if it means, printing up some stuff and sending it through the mail, or putting an insert, working with the Eugene Weekly or something like that, and seeing if they might be willing to have us stick something in that, or posters or billboards, or, I know that's kind of spendy, so that might be out of our possibilities at the moment. But, anything that we could do that might give people some tools that they don't currently have. Okay, Delinea, yeah.
I guess some of that we could just put it on our webpage.
Yeah.
I noticed, yeah, because our webpage has been getting hit pretty good lately. Had
That's
about
great.
760 views. So.
That's way better than nothing. Okay, webpage, that's great. Thea.
So, the runner boards, the board at Red Barn are really good places. I've been putting posters up for the Eugene Mission.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get the list, Anon.
Okay, I'll make sure you do.
Okay.
Could you send
and
it
then
out again?
also-
Because I don't think I got it either.
I just sent it out a little bit ago,
Oh, okay.
just before the meeting. But I used the email that you had used, Delinea, and just did the reply to everybody. And I was hoping that would work, but if it didn't, I'll make a point of doing something about that.
I'll check my spam. The other
Sure.
place I could, Anon, I can also get the list to the housing service officers and the parking officers
Cool.
and to our park ambassadors.
Nice.
Because the park ambassadors are going to be, we have a set of park ambassadors that are going to be,
Yay.
they're getting a sneak peek, but they're going to be stationed in the Whitaker
Nice.
to help get resources to some of our unhoused.
Very cool.
So,
Okay, I will make sure I get that to you. And yeah, I'll send it directly instead of sending it as a reply to everybody. I'll send it just directly to you. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, any other thoughts? Time is running out, and that's fine. We actually might be able to recover a little bit and get a chance to get up and stretch and use the restroom and whatnot before the main meeting at 7. If nobody else is struck, oh, yes, Doriandra. Uh-oh, you're quiet. I'm not used to you being quiet.
Yeah, I know. Just a quick question, in
Sure.
pulling funds around from that budget, I just want to get some approval and input on so that we get back to the 23,500. I went ahead and just pulled 3,000 out of that admin and equipment because that seemed like really high. So now we have 2,000 for admin and equipment. Is that enough, Drea, for QuickBooks and anything that may come up? Let's
Yeah,
see.
she's quiet. That's weird.
Oh, she's quiet. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, I think that'll be
Okay.
good.
Perfect. And then I
Well,
pulled
maybe-
another 3,000 out of the basic home furnishings, again, because of our partnership with Eugene Mission. So I think we could adequately get folks set up. So anyway, that's where I pulled it from. And then this number then will change our budget.
St.
So
Vincent
cool.
de Paul gives beds too.
Yep. Yeah, I think we're in a good place with those two categories pulling from. So if everybody's okay with that, I'll press on, finalize that and then send it. Okay, thanks.
Yep, we're good.
Okay.
Cool and groovy. Okay, I'm gonna close things out. Everybody had some great ideas. Yay!
Yay.
Okay, I'm gonna leave and I'll be back. And thanks, everybody. It's always great to work with you guys. And I'll see you in a few minutes.
Great. Thank you, Anand.
Bye.
Delinea, I'll close this one out for recording and then you start the next one. Perfect. Okay. See y'all in a bit.